Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Headline Books Christmas Extravaganza session. This evening, we are chatting with author Angie Wilson. She has so many books with Headline Books. I don't even know how many she has. She has so many. She writes for children. She writes in the middle grade genre. She's a wonderful person, and all of her books have such a nice message. So we're really excited to have her on our program today. We are going to be taking comments from you all. So if you have any questions for Angie or any comments, feel free to put them into the comments section of this video. And after the presentation, we'll do a short Q&A with her. And if you would like to purchase any of the books that we are chatting about today, there is also a link for that. So I would like to welcome Angie Wilson to our program. We're so happy you could join us today.
Hey, Ashley.
Hi, so good to see you. And I should mention, I have had the privilege of working with Angie on several of these titles. And again, she's just a wonderful person, and these books are so needed right now. And she's going to share a little bit about those with you today. And then we're also going to do a reading of one of them. So again, if you all have questions, post them in here. And before we get started, I would like to say a thank you to the Next Generation Indie Book Awards for being our sponsor for our Christmas extravaganza this week. All right, Angie, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you. I am so excited about being part of the extravaganza. And just thankful that we have this, that we're able to do this. Even though we can't get together, we're still getting together. And a lot of people who maybe couldn't come to shows are being able to have access to a lot of these books. And I think that's the good part. So look for the silver lining, right?
Absolutely. It's definitely important to look at the silver lining all the time now.
Amen to that. Okay, I'm going to do a PowerPoint, if that's okay.
Yes.
Let me get it started here. Okay, and this is about Gracie. And I'm going to be talking to you about the Gracie's guides and about the Gracie's mysteries. I get a lot of questions of how did you come up with Gracie? Because she's just such a fun little character and people really relate to her. Even adults love reading this story. So it really started by the first book I wrote. I had written this book called Dory's Gift, and it was written in the era of the early 1900s. So after this book came out, I started writing a lot of stories for this time period and wrote several other books, and also started writing a chapter book. So I literally wrote thousands of words for this time period that required research. And one day I was just really tired of researching and thinking how life was 100 years ago. So I thought, I want something different. I want a modern story, and I want just something totally different that I don't have to research before I write. So that's how I came up with Gracie. She's funny, she's smart, she's talkative, she's nosy, but hey, nosy people get stuff done, so there's nothing wrong with that. She's opposite of the other characters I was writing about. She lives with a single parent, and she's an only child. They don't have a lot of money, but they do have a lot of love. So that's how I created Gracie. That's how she came to be. And with this first story, after I decided how she was going to be, I had the first line in my mind. And when I sat down at the computer, it just literally flowed as fast as I could type it. This story came to me. So I really feel Gracie is a gift from God. I think Gracie came from the Lord. So the first mystery is talking about Gracie is getting ready to start her summer vacation. So I'm going to read for you just a little bit of what happened to Gracie. She was out kind of being nosy, and she had her binoculars, and she was looking into someone's window when all of a sudden she heard this guy's window open, and he leaned out and yelled, "You are the nosiest kid in this entire building," he said, veins bulging on his neck. "You should be punished by your mother." His fists were tightly clenched. You should never use those things to look in other people's homes. At this point, he began to shake his fist at me. His face grew redder by the second. I stood there looking back at him, not knowing what to do. I had been caught red-handed, like a kid with his hand in the cookie jar, and I was speechless. He started pacing back and forth in front of the window. It was an awkward moment as I stood there, frozen in my tracks. At last, he leaned out of the window as far as he could get and yelled even louder. And furthermore, binoculars are not for young girls. And that's all it took for Gracie. Let me tell you, after he said that, she had a little accident that she ended up in the hospital. But she started her summer vacation and she got to go to Darcy's discount store. And this is the mystery at Darcy's discount store. She got to spend some time with her mom there at the discount store in the observation room, where it was a super spy's dream. And there was a mystery, of course, that happened at the discount store. And she tried to convince everyone that she knew who it was, and they didn't believe her. So the story is really kind of funny, the way she worked through all of that and to find out if she actually convinced them of who it was. So we were so honored after this story came out that it won several awards. It won a Mom's Choice Gold Award, a London Book Festival Award, and a Reader's Favorite Award. So we're just so thankful for that. And Kathy insisted on book number 2. So I wrote The Mystery in the Window, which is the second Gracie story. And in this story, get that up, Duchess, the school cat, is missing. So this is a story, the mystery really took place while they were at school. And Gracie jumps right in on the case. Well, she, of course, has her binoculars with her every day. And her BFF, Kinsey, they go out into the playground and they have this, what they call the observation dome. And it's the highest point in the playground. And they go up and they start investigating and looking for Duchess. Well, there's an old abandoned house across the street from them. And when they went up to the dome, I'm going to read a little bit from this story. What we saw in the window made cold chills run up our spine. The curtain was untied, but that wasn't the scary part. We stood there, unable to move, staring at the window. Someone or something had been there in the house, and they had left us a message. There was a message written on the dusty window pane. Yes, you heard me. A message written on the window. There were 2 words, and it was just for Kinsey and me. We knew it was for us because it said, "Stop spying." And so this is the house that Gracie was looking into. Would you investigate this house? Do you think Gracie did? Of course she did. And that was another really good mystery. Everyone really loves this book. They are both chapter books for grades 4 through 6 if they're reading it independently. And if you're reading it aloud to them, I read it to kids as young as kindergarten. But we were pleased with The Mystery in the Window. It was also award-winning. It won a Reader's Favorite Award, Creative Child Magazine Preferred Choice Award as well. So we were really blessed with this book. And then, you know, as a teacher, I'm also a teacher. I've taught for 25 years in the public school system. So I do a lot of school visits. I go to other schools and visit, and I always read a book when I go. And with Gracie, I didn't want to just read a little bit of a chapter book. I wanted to have a story that I could take that would be a complete story, that I could read the entire thing when I was there. And I also wanted it to be something that would help kids. I just didn't want to, you know, have a silly little story. I thought, what could I write about that could really help kids? And so that's how the Gracie's Guides were born. And this is the first book of our Gracie's Guide. Gracie's Guide is a series, and we actually have 13 guides at this point and counting. But it's a series of books on some really tough topics. So as I was coming up with this, I thought, you know, our kids connect easily with Gracie because she's a strong character. So you can write about these tough topics and tough issues if you write it from the character point, if you write it using a strong character. So I was able to jump right in and deal with some really heavy issues, actually. This first issue was bullying, and actually this story actually happened to me, part of it, when I was in 7th grade. And the bad thing was I never told anyone about it. I internalized being bullied. And I don't want kids to do that. I know a lot of times when they are bullied, they're afraid and they don't want to speak up. But I hope by hearing the stories that they will realize they can talk to a caring adult and they can get help. And so that's how the first book came to be. And after I wrote this book, I was approached by the West Virginia SAD director. SAD stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions. And at the time, the director's name was Travis Helmendaller. And he asked me if I would be willing to write several more books, several more guides to go with an ESAD curriculum that they had. And so he gave me the topics. So there's the topics we had: staying positive, and of course, bullying, bike safety, Gracie says no to smoking, and Gracie learns about the dangers of prescription drugs. So we worked really hard, Kathy and I and Ashley. Ashley is our amazing illustrator who brought Gracie to life absolutely beautifully. I love the way she draws Gracie. It's just amazing. And we worked really hard to get those books out in 2016, and they were launched at the West Virginia SAD convention. So after that, we had so many requests for more books. You know, can you write, people would ask us, can you write on addiction? I mean, look at these topics right here. Can you write on the prevention of suicide? I was approached about the suicide book, and they said there aren't any children's books about suicide. I was like, well, no wonder. Who wants to write that? It was very difficult to write, but I think it will help. It has already helped a lot of people, and the addiction story has helped so many kids. And then we have cyber safety. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we have written on. And Be Kind is our latest book. The newest book guide that has come out is called Be Kind. And this story was actually supported by Volunteer West Virginia. And so I'm going to put this down, and Ashley is going to bring up the Be Kind story, and I'm going to read this story to you in just a minute. There it is. And there's the little Be Kind symbol. I love that symbol. We have stickers that are all around our community with that. The 5th grade class sat silently around the lunch table. It was so different for them to be quiet, but no one really knew what to say. Only a few moments before, harsh words had been tossed around their classroom. Get them to settle, but it was too late. The words had already left their mouths. The students bowed their heads. Some of them were for the words. Others were glad they finally said them. And then some of them wanted to say even more harsh things. Well, the morning had started out like any other morning. You know, all the usual school stuff, like working math problems, reading stories, writing long, lengthy answers. The students were working in small groups to answer a reading question when an all-out argument broke out. Of course, Gracie was the first to express her opinion to the whole class, which caused others to yell out as well. Miss T informed the class that she had had enough. and stopped the entire thing. As she began to lecture them, they were literally saved by the lunch bell. So they eagerly lined up and made their way to the cafeteria. Gracie quietly ate her PB&J and thought about the craziness of the morning. The class had been collecting dog and cat food for the local animal shelter for the past 2 weeks. There was a ginormous box in their classroom that held the donations. On the very top of the box was a bag of cat food that had a picture of a girl with a cat. Dexter, one of the boys in the group beside her, had made the comment that the girl in the picture was as ugly as Wendy, a quiet girl who sat behind Gracie. Some of the other boys began to laugh and made other remarks, naming other girls who they added as being just as ugly. In a matter of moments, the group discussions quickly left the subject of reading and joined in the fight. Gracie heard a little sniff coming from Wendy, and she turned to see a tear rolling down her cheek. She remembered how it felt when someone called her ugly, and it infuriated her. Gracie felt her heart sink to her toes as she stood up and looked Dexter right in the eyes and began. "You're one to talk, Dexter. Your picture should be under the word ugly in the dictionary." Another student yelled that Gracie could be in the dictionary under that word as well. Someone else added that Wendy's entire family could be pictured under that word. And then it happened. Student names were tossed around with horrible adjectives that described them as being far from pretty. Miss T raised her voice louder than anyone had heard her, and she demanded everyone to be quiet. The words that Gracie said to Dexter stuck in her mind like the peanut butter stuck to the roof of her mouth. She couldn't believe she had actually said those words that had caused so much pain for Gracie once when someone had called her ugly. And she had done the same thing to someone else. She felt so ashamed. When lunch was over, Miss T continued her lecture. "Words spoken can never be retrieved," Miss T stated. "So at this point, you have a choice to make. You can get bitter by letting the words swirl around your head and cause even more pain, or you can get better. And the only way to get better is to forgive and forget." The class knew Miss T was right. I think the most shocking part of the morning is the fact that you were so unkind to each other when you've been working on an act of kindness for our town. Just because you've gathered donations for the animal shelter doesn't make you kind. It's deeper than that. It's a lesson that you must learn. I took your picture this morning with the donation box. Everyone smiled and felt like they had done a good deed. But being kind is so much more. It's how you treat each other every day. The students listened to each word Ms. Thompson said. Being kind should be more than a good deed. It should be who you are. Her words hit the 5th grade class like a ton of bricks. Ms. T continued, "I have decided to give each of you an opportunity to make up for everything that happened this morning. We're going to work on projects that will not only help someone else, but will help us individually as well. I'm placing you in groups of 2 for this project. No one is allowed to change partners. Each pair will work this afternoon on planning acts of kindness that you will do together." And with that, she began to write the names of the pairs on the board. Gracie cringed when she was placed with Dexter. The pairs were 2 people who didn't like each other. The first part of this assignment is called positive post-its. Everyone will receive a post-it note from me, and I want you to write a compliment about your partner on it and give it to them, Miss T said with a smile. Gracie's mind was totally blank. What in the world could she say about Dexter that was nice? She finally wrote, "You're good in math," and gave it to him. His note for Gracie said, "You ask a lot of questions, which makes you good at finding out stuff." Gracie actually liked the note because, as a super spy, you must be a good investigator. She smiled at Dexter for the first time this school year, and after he read the note, he smiled back. The students worked with their partners to decide on their projects. Gracie and Dexter began to make a list of their top 3 choices. Miss T stunned the class when she added, "You need to choose 10 acts of kindness. You will work with your partner for 2 weeks, and you will do at least 1 good deed each day. At the end of each day, you will also need to fill out a positive post-it about your partner." Everyone gasped when they realized they had to work with their enemy for 2 weeks. Could this assignment get any worse? Each day seemed to drag on along slowly as the partners worked to do their good deed. Gracie learned to keep her mouth shut as she worked with Dexter. She remembered the old saying, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And boy, did that apply to her. She worked quietly for 3 days. Well, as quietly as possible for a talkative person. On day 4, as the pair worked at the art center, decorating thank you cards for the school cooks, Dexter said something funny that Gracie actually thought was funny. How do you make a tissue dance? He asked. Gracie shrugged her shoulders. You put a little boogie in it. Gracie giggled at the silly joke, which prompted him to tell another. Then another. Then another. Where did you get all of these? Gracie asked. I have a book entitled 101 Super Funny Jokes, and I know all of them. Dexter proudly explained. Gracie wrote that Dexter likes to make people laugh on the post-it that day. The next 3 weeks was full of good deeds. The pairs worked together to make cards for workers at their school, as well as people around town. Some of the kids collected food for a food bank, and some gathered blankets for the homeless. There were boxes all around the school, so other classrooms could donate items and help. At the end of 2 weeks, the class had completed over 100 good deeds. It was amazing. What was even more amazing was the positive post-its that covered an entire bulletin board Miss T had created especially for the compliments. Gracie found the more she got to know Dexter, the easier it was to write a compliment about him. Although the two didn't become BFFs, they did become friends. She realized Dexter had some good points, and he realized the same about Gracie. This project has been the best assignment I've had given all year, Miss T informed the class. I've watched you develop friendships as you've worked with people that you weren't close to at the beginning of the week. It's important that we learn how to be nice to others and appreciate them. It doesn't mean you must become best friends with everyone in the class. We all have similarities and differences, but we can learn to be kind and get along, even if we don't agree on everything. The students decided they didn't want to stop doing the good deeds. They continued doing acts of kindness and volunteering around their community for the rest of the school year. They learned a valuable lesson about being kind. It wasn't simply an outward act toward another person. It was so much more than that. It was their words and actions as well as their deeds. They realized before they said something, they needed to ask themselves if it was kind. If it wasn't, they simply needed to keep the comment to themselves. It's one thing to perform a random act of kindness. It's another thing to be kind. Kindness begins on the inside. It isn't something you can check off a list as completed when you donate to a charity. It is a way of life. And if you'll turn to that last page, one more page, being kind should be more than a good deed. It should be who you are. And that is our message with the Be Kind book.
That was great, Angie. We always love seeing these books.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hold on. Can you see the PowerPoint or not?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just wanted to show a couple of more things.
Yes.
And talk about the Police Explorers Club that we have started here in Mercer County. And it's in 4 different towns. And the kids actually learn from the policemen. And they're using the Gracie's guides as a basis for these clubs. They will read the story to them. They will give them tours of the police station and the police cars. So there's some pictures. And kids realize that policemen are their friends.
You need to scroll down to that slide. We're just seeing the first one.
Oh. Huh. Well, let me see here.
It's fine. It's all part of our new Zoom. Zoom lifestyles here.
Okay, I'm not saying anything now except my slide show. So let's just we don't have to worry about that. It's just a couple of pictures there. But I had a police officer that shared with me that a lot of times kids are afraid of them. And even if they are lost, like if there's a lost child, that when they see a policeman coming, they will run and hide. So these books have really been instrumental in kids realizing that the policemen are there to help, and if not, they shouldn't run from them or be afraid. And then we also have the junior firefighters. And again, kids sometimes, they don't realize that firemen, they know firemen are there to help, but when they get on their whole uniform, the mask, that breathing apparatus, and you can barely hear them, but you can hear them breathe, it's kind of scary.
Yes.
And I know with really young kids, when they see that if there would be in a fire, which, God forbid, but if they see a fireman crawling to them in the middle of the night, that would be a little scary. So that has helped them to realize that firemen are helpers and they are there to help.
Oh, that's just such a great program. And again, like all of these books have such a great message, and you're such a positive person, and these books have had such an impact on lots and lots of kids. So we want to commend you on that.
Appreciate that.
Yes. And you're also a very positive person, and that's one of the questions that I have for you here. So 2020 has been an interesting year, and we're trying to end it on a positive note. So do you have a positive experience from the pandemic that you'd like to share?
Positive experience. Well, I tell you, during the pandemic, I was very busy. My husband and I, we pastor a church, and so we were pastoring online. We were making, those videos and those live streams, and then I was also doing a Bible study online, and I wrote 2 Gracie books. And I did a lot of recording and sending Gracie stories out. And I think one of the good things with Gracie was the social media things that were created during the pandemic. And I started a Facebook page for her under just Gracie. If you're on Facebook, look up Gracie. Started an Instagram under Gracie's Guides, and then a website under graciesguides.com. So those are some really positive things that I had the time to do during the pandemic.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to make the best of your situation, and it sounds like you definitely did that. So with your website and everything, is that the best way for people to contact you, or how would you like people to contact you about doing, virtual visits or just to ask questions?
You can do that. I also have the author angiewilson.com, and that's how we're selling our books. You can link up through Gracie's Guides, but it takes you back to the author angiewilson.com. That's where they can purchase. We're running a special, a holiday special, where you can get the 2 mysteries for $15 plus shipping and handling. And you can get any 5 of the guides that usually sell for $6. We're doing 5 guides for $25 plus shipping and handling. So they can click on authorangiewilson.com and get those specials.
Great. And I do see there behind you that you have your Next Generation Indie Book Award medal. And again, I did say that you have several books with Headline Books, and several of those are award-winning books. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience of the Next Generation Indie Book Award gala that we were able to go to?
Oh, that was amazing. That was like the best thing as an author that I've been to. And it was for this series, and I think there were 7 books at the time that won the Indie Award, and it was just a total surprise. Expecting that also. It was just a fantastic evening, and you got to dress up and go to New York.
I know.
Amazing.
It is. It's so much fun. And again, yeah, it's just such a unique experience. And, as an author, there's a lot of working alone. you don't have a ton of people around. It's very like secluded at times. So it's really fun when you can get together with other people who experience that same thing and celebrate together. And it makes it even more special. Well, again, for any of you listening out there, we have been chatting with award-winning author Angie Wilson. And if you all have additional comments or questions that you think of after the presentation, feel free to go ahead and type them in the comments section of this video. We will be checking videos periodically. And if you missed the beginning of this session, we are having the replays stay up on our Facebook pages, and we also have a Zoom Into Books YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to that because we will be posting all of our videos from our Christmas extravaganza there. Also, we have so much more coming this week. We are doing full days of programming through Saturday. So we have children's book authors, we have middle grade authors, novelists, everybody, anything you can think of, we have. So we hope that you'll check back with us. And again, Angie from Headline Books, we want to say thank you for being such an amazing author and for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we hope to see you on Zoom again soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.